So I think the Black Muslim community is a reflection of the broader society. So, and the things that we have to struggle with as Black Muslims is what we have to struggle with as Black Canadians. And so I wouldn't actually see how we deal with overall racism very differently than how we would deal with racism within our communities. We often participate in the whole social gathering pieces. We also participate, whether it's at work or at school, and if you're part of a different club. We also participate in educational spaces where racism is understood, and people understand their own biases, and go through that iceberg exercise of how their outward reactions are embedded because of their belief systems and values and systemic racism, and understanding that. So those conversations need to continue also happening within our Muslim communities. And if anything, knowing that the promise of the Prophet ﷺ is that khair or goodness will remain in my nation until the day of judgment. So also giving that whole part about thinking good about our brothers and sisters, and assuming that yes, this is part of ignorance and education is needed, but also protecting ourselves and knowing that sometimes it's not ignorance, sometimes it's hate, sometimes it's racism. So knowing when we exert ourselves and our energy and our love and our kindness and to share and to welcome folks, and when it's not worth it, and it's okay to walk away from things. So allowing being kind and forgiving, not only to our community but to ourselves, and knowing when the bar or our energy is running low, when our batteries need refilling, and going back then to places of refuge and kindness and love and Blackness to recharge, and then go back in and have these conversations. But if we're tired, then we're tired, and allowing ourselves to be tired if we are.
I mean, education on both ends within our communities, and also the other communities as well. So whether we can work with other communities, whether we can educate other communities, like the brother was saying, that we need to spread the word, wherever, however we could do it, then so be it. I think it'll be a much efficient way to get the results. And by results, I'm not talking about eradication of racism. This is going to be there. It's not going anywhere. It's been there since Adam alayhi salam. It's gonna be there until after we die. It's just planting the seeds towards eradicating certain standards. I think this is the main thing. I mean, white standard is real, and I think it's something that we need to educate people about. Where, look, you got a white man in a suit and a tie, doesn't mean he's more better than others that are of color. And this is something that you travel and you see that everywhere, and you're like, subhanallah, So this is what we need to work on, education. And like I said, if we come with a more, I guess, a better image, not to say that we're the problem and we don't have a good image, but I mean, like, if we on a bigger scale have a better image on ourselves, working on ourselves and educating ourselves, people will take us seriously.
Amongst my friends, there's an understanding that everybody's kind of hustling for themselves a little bit, and that, if you don't find space in your masjid, or you don't find space in your community center, like, if you make it, they'll want you. They'll want you one day. Once you're successful, when you're a lawyer, you're Supreme Justice, you're running your own firm, you're CEO of whatever corporation, that day they're going to run for you. But right now, the understanding that I have amongst at least my peers is that everybody feels like they're in it for themselves, and that the Muslim community, as beneficial as it is, and as much as we want to be a part of it, and we are a part of it because it's, our deen is a fundamental part of who we are, and giving back to your community is a part of what we do, regardless of whether or not you feel like you're getting it back. You still give because you're a Muslim and that is what you do. But there's less of an expectation of reciprocity right now until such time as you are able to be, that the hand that is giving. And I can say that for me, at least, I'm a part of the Muslim Youth Fellowship, and it's very heartwarming to see a lot of mentorship that is available, and people who are representing a very similar ideal that say like me and my friends have. Like you are successful, now you help, you know, and like we hope as we climb the ladder that we help, and that's just the way that we hope to set our community up, because if you can see the fault lines, then you know you don't step over them in the hopes that you know it's not going to come back and get you. You clean them up.
I found just in my own experiences over the years, the way that people come to, you know, understand one another in the most, you know, with the most impact is when you're actually relating in social settings with another person, right? So, you know, I would tell my kids, you know, we're not going to shy away from, you know, different cultural, like majority mosques or communities or anything. We're going to be in their face. You know, we're just going to come into their thing. And even if you don't understand the language that they're speaking, or, you know, they're looking at you in a funny way, it doesn't matter because we're all Muslim. And that's the only way, like I could see over the years, people developing a different understanding of Black people, a different understanding of Black skin, of Black hair, of, you know, just the Black look, you know. It went from curiosity to actually, you know, being able to relate, to be, you know, being able to you know, like even just a physical thing, like you're looking at a little Black child and you're, you know, wow, this is interesting. And, you know, his hair is growing and it's like, I want to touch it. Can I touch it? Okay, yes, you can touch it. And then it went from that to hugging them to actually loving them, you know, and it's just the most profound thing, you know, when humans do that, right? And that's the only way I feel like, you know, if you touch the person personally, and then they become a part of you, and then it just spreads to the rest of the community. Because I see now that, you know, there's leaders of the community, like, you know, the leaders of mosques. So they might not be the sheikhs or the imams or anything, but they're the ones who run the mosques. I see them now, some of their children are marrying other races, and suddenly they have a mixed race grandchild, and then they have to embrace the culture. So this is happening, you know, from the youth, but it really is the fact that it's impact them personally. And you know, and then you know, and then you're able to explain your culture and your why things are certain ways and stuff like that in a personal setting, and then it, you know, becomes a part of their life.
There's such a, mashallah, large Muslim community that every single ethnicity within the broader Muslim family has had the luxury of siphoning itself off and isolating itself. So once we begin to create spaces that cohesive, diverse spaces, and invite people out of, you know, kind of their little crevices in the city and say, hey, this is something that we're doing to bring the entire Muslim community together, and then, you know, present or educate in that capacity, and then allow everybody to go back into their spaces, and over time, inshallah, progress to a place where all of these cultural stigmas and ideas and, you know, the misconceptions that exist within the community will kind of dissipate, inshallah. So, you know, focusing on this, if we could do, you know, larger initiatives that draw Muslims together from all over the city, from every masjid, and one day, inshallah, we may get to a place where we have a masjid, and not a Somali masjid, not a Bengali masjid, not a Arab masjid, and we just have a masjid. And, you know, inshallah, I mean, even if we were, like, even Eid, unfortunately, you know, we don't celebrate, there isn't a single Eid celebration in the city. Not to say that, you know, logistically it'd be a nightmare, but at the same time, the just hearing about efforts to do something like that would be encouraging, right? But inshallah, again, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that these conversations were happening 5 years ago, and inshallah they'll progress in the next 5 years and turn into something bigger and beautiful.